Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Tent of Abraham. It's been a minute. I'm Tamir Kreisman from Jerusalem, Israel, and we're starting something new today. So, this one is called The Governance of Time. This is according to the Ramchal. This teaching is called The Stubborn and Winding Road. Now, this is not what I have been working on since the final teaching of Pirkei Derbi Eliezer, because I'm still in the middle of working on that. That's a very big project. It's a very big series. But I didn't want to leave you guys high and dry. So, due to several requests and the fascinating subject matter, while I'm working on the other series, the long-term series, I've prepared a mini-series for you in the meantime. So this series covers the 10 millennia of creation, 10,000 years, because at 6,000, which is 214 years away, though the world as we know it will end, it brings rebirth and renewal. And so, in this series, we will be covering the first 6,000 years, 2,000, 2,000, and 2,000, and then the 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th millennia, according to the works of the Ramchal. I'm going to simplify a lot of these concepts and not get into it, because then this would be a whole nother study within itself. And like I said, this is just a kind of in-between situation. And it's a part of a greater study, so I don't want to lose anybody over here. That being said, let's get into it. The Ramchal discusses what we call Hahanhaga Bazman, the governance of time. Zman, time, okay? Specifically, what God put into play across time as we know it. Its rules, regulations, and what can and cannot happen, and so on. And so we must start at the beginning of creation itself, but only once time as we know it was infused to reality. And that is after Adam sinned, when he was expelled from the supernal to the terrestrial Garden of Eden, and then into this world and to this reality. That's how time as we know it started to tick, right? That's when the countdown began. So again, whatever I'm bringing forth here, it's the Ramchal's commentary from these different sources. And of course, you have my own, basically, I infuse myself in here, kind of giving you examples to better understand what it is that these guys are saying. Zohar Tanena for Parshat Miketz. In there, he discusses the rules of governance before and after the sin. He says, the secret of the matter is that the true meaning or intent is not revealed in the works of God, and this is for the sake of the Sitra Achra, the other side, okay? The forces of darkness, if you will, however you want to translate that. After man sinned, causing the Sitra Achra means the other side, causing the Sitra Achra to spread throughout the lower worlds of creation, he had to hide his intent, God had to hide his intent, in order for it not to be hijacked by the impurity. Case in point, the holiness usually comes from the places least likely to be found. King David, right, would come from where? From Lot and his daughters. You see? So the Samech Mem, Sitra Achra, would be like, yeah, whatever. You got my thumbs up on that. I approve this message. Go at it. He won't even look at it. Same concept also with the Seir La'azazel that the high priest would give on Yom Kippur. You have the he-goat taken out to the wilderness over there, and all the sins of Israel will be put on the goat. And then the Sitra Achra follows that instead of following Israel. You go where the sin is. And that's why if it's considered sin, immoral, questionable, he doesn't even look at it. He says, okay, Zemishilanu, it's one of ours, no problem. But that's usually where God brings the surprise. So, and the truth of the matter is that the governance of the world, the way it is today, is very different from the time before the sin. In the secret of Psalms 18:27, that says, Im navar titbarer ve'im ikesh titpatal. With a pure one, you show yourself pure, but with a crooked one, you deal crookedly. You see? So with the crooked one, God is going to deal crookedly with him, because things change constantly. Nothing is straightforward. It's a long and windy road. Constant motion and distraction, and all for the sake of throwing off the accuser. For these words, ve'im ikesh titpatal, with a stubborn and windy one, or winding one, we get the stubborn and winding road, or way, derech ikesh petaltol. Now, I don't know if you recall, but we discussed this regarding the serpent in the heavens. In Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer, nachash ikel upetaltol, a stubborn and windy serpent. What does this mean, and how is this relevant to us? Again, everything's going to be clear. If you don't understand the concepts that I'm saying, I'm going to explain everything. Just go with me here. Now, I'm sure everyone knows the famous verses of Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, right? And if you don't, then learn it. And now you're actually going to understand where this comes from. What Solomon is saying in all his infinite wisdom, this is where it comes from. What Solomon is talking about in the practical as well as the spiritual sense of this world, why this is relevant, why it was even said. So he says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not, or do not rely upon your understanding. Betach, trust, not believe. Trust. There's a massive difference, okay? Everybody believes in God. Everybody will believe in God, but trusting in God, that's when it's not so convenient. That's when a lot of questions come up, but that's what separates the boys from the men, if you will. Betach el Hashem, trust el, towards God. Bechol libcha, with all your heart. It doesn't even say bechol levavcha, like it says in the Shema, because here we're talking about a single mind. Whether it's good or bad, this is all one. We're on a higher level right now. Ve'el binatcha, bina, understanding, al tisha'en, do not lean upon your own understanding. Bechol derachecha da'ehu, da'at, this is knowledge. Bechol, in all, derachecha, your ways. Derech is a path, right? Know him, or in all your ways know him, or people say acknowledge him, but acknowledge, to know, same thing. Vehu yeyasher orchotecha. That's the key right there. And he will direct your paths. Now, it doesn't, you could translate it at that, but I want literal. Yeyasher, yashar. Yashar is straight. Orchotecha. Orech is also, it means your way, how you live. Okay? Derachecha, your paths, which also comes from the word lidroch, where you step. Derech, mahaderech, what is the way? Efwani dorech, right? Where you stand. Yeyasher, from the word yashar, straight. Which means that your ways and your paths are crooked by default. When there's no God, by default. You're going to see why. No matter what you do, no matter how much you plan, no matter who you have advising you, if you do not include God into every aspect of your life, then what you are doing is crooked. Why is it crooked? It's not because of you. It's because of the governance of the world that you currently live in. But God, hu yeyasher orchotecha, he will make your crooked ways straight, as in yashar. And now you understand, when God chose Israel, he gave us his name, because we live according to his ways and not our own. That is why Yashar El, Israel. You get it? Okay. And again, what is the world that we live in? This is the long and winding way of the serpent. So if you live in this world without God, you are crooked just like the serpent. But there's a shortcut through it. There's a straight path through it. Derech HaYashar, right? Derech HaMelech. Yashar El, Israel. It's right there in the words. Okay. Ecclesiastes 7:29 says, for God made man straight. Asa ha'Elohim et ha'adam yashar. Israel was always the original form. So yes, this is a crooked and windy world, reminiscent of the serpent who brought death to it. But the way to navigate it successfully is through Torah, is through Israel. Hence, God made man, Ha'adam Yashar, straight, Yashar El. And Israel is the only nation who are called man. Adam, man. It's one and the same. As said in Ezekiel 34:29-30. And I established for them a plantation for renown, and they will no longer be hidden because of hunger in the land, and they will no longer bear the disgrace of the nations. Who's he talking about? Israel, bearing the disgrace of the nations. And they will know that I am the Lord their God. And I am with them, and they are my people, the house of Israel, says the Lord God. So clearly, he's speaking about, there's a separation between the nations and between Israel. And you are my flocks, the flocks of my pasture. You are man. Adam atem, Israel. And I am your God, says the Lord God. God made Adam straight. Adam is Israel. Yashar El. Boom. So you're going to understand shortly why the nations got beef with Israel in just a few. As said plainly and clearly in Joshua 1:8. The book of the Torah shall not leave your mouth. You shall meditate therein day and night, in order that you observe to do. It's all about doing. We are in the world of asiyah, action. Tishmor la'asot. All that is written in it, for that you will succeed in all your ways. Ki az tatzliach et darkecha. Wow. And then you will prosper. It's very clear. It's not that difficult. It's just a matter of looking at it, not just taking, this one here and this one there. Look at everything from above, and you're actually going to see a very clear path forming over there. Before the sin in the garden, the governance of truth was very apparent. But after the sin, the governance became almost invisible, as it drowned within the confusion. That's also the reason that God placed not only the cherubim to keep us in our fallen state from the tree of life, but also the blade of the revolving sword. Genesis 3:24. He drove out the man, right? Vayegaresh et ha'adam, v'ashken mikedem legan Eden, and he stationed from the east of the Garden of Eden the cherubim and the blade of the revolving sword to guard the way to the tree of life. Lahat hacherev hamitapechet. Hamitapechet is turning over, flipping over, constant change, constant noise, constant distraction. All that is what's happening over there. Not everyone can merit to make it to the tree of life. In fact, most people don't even know it exists. Proverbs 3:18, it is a tree of life for those who grasp it, and those who support it are fortunate. We've already discussed this verse plenty of time over the years. We have the way. We have the derech. As our sages say, derech eretz kadma la Torah, the way, the path of the land, of this fallen world, of the great tree of knowledge of good and evil, must be walked and properly separated before you can even think of getting to the tree of life. So by doing so, it happens simultaneously. It's not like, okay, this is done and here I am. Every step that you take and you make that separation of good and evil, you're already tasting from the tree of life. It all happens together. In certain instances in the Zohar, it says that they're one and the same, that it's the same tree. The tree of knowledge of good and evil is the outer crust, and then the tree of life is the inner crust. You see? And all these things, it could be two different trees, it could be the same tree. Nevertheless, there is a separation and then there is truth, but it all comes from one point of origin, and this is God. This is generally speaking, and specifically one step at a time, every day. Okay? So in other words, it's not like, I have to live an entire lifetime like this and like that. It comes from every moment of every day. What am I doing now? What is my focus? Separate that focus, you already taste from the tree of life. This is how it happens. It's not in our understanding like, okay, one thing after the next, we are in God's world, everything happens at the same time. The Ramchal speaks to this matter when he discusses Daniel's dream. He said, man was not supposed to know from evil at all, but rather to rectify the worlds as they stood at that time. These worlds had no evil in them, so he needed to elevate them, connecting them, like the aspect of before the breaking, before the shvirat hakelim, before the shattering of the vessels. And that is the truth of the matter of what God allowed Adam to do. The difference, in simple terms, is that God left creation, specifically the upper worlds, incomplete, to give Adam a part in completing the task. It's like if a father would give his son an elaborate Lego kit, right? You have all the instructions, but you don't even need to give him the box. The father already gave him everything. The son just had to put, I don't know, let's say, think of the medieval castles. I had those when I was a kid. And you just had to give your kid to put the little flag on top. That's all Adam had to do. It's incomplete except for this. Put that on there. Didn't exactly happen. The whole thing came crashing down. All the pieces fell all over the place. And now the kid has to put it back together himself. Fortunately, the dad saved the box, the instruction manuals. You got pictures. You have instructions. You got nice big colors over there. You have exactly the way to go do all these things. So what has to happen? God directs his son to go find all those pieces. We'll call them now in our terminology, the sparks. And go get them from here, go get them from there. Every last one matters because they all make up the original structure. The original structure in this case being Adam, who is also a microcosm of creation. I hope you're with me. Okay. So instead of working upwards, which is where Adam was supposed to go, everything fell down like a shattered crystal glass that we have spent almost 6,000 years putting together one fragment at a time. Remember, there are not souls, plural. There is one soul. God created one soul, just one soul. That is Adam's. We are all part of Adam. That soul shattered. So we are fragments of this being put back together. The entire purpose of man was that he would be able to hold fast and pass that specific trial. How else do you think we elevate anything in this world, in this reality? There's only one way. It's through trial. Positive and negative commands. Every time we pass a test or a trial, no matter how big or how small, we elevate this world. It's the difference. Okay, I'll give you like here, something small. Let's say you go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, right? You're exhausted, you're tired, you're already walking in the dark, you know everything where it is in the dark. You go back to bed, you lay down in bed, and then you're like, oh, I didn't say the blessing for after going to the bathroom, right? There's a difference if you put the kippah on your head and you say the blessing laying down, or if you say the blessing sitting up. You see? Sure, it's great that you said the blessing, but if you say the blessing sitting up, you do more of a tikkun. It's more difficult. Saying the blessing at all in the middle of the night, being cognizant of it when you're half asleep. All these small, tiny little things, the things that you know that you could, okay, I did it, no problem, or I want to do it properly. That's the difference. Every single thing that you do counts, okay? When we falter or fail, then we dip. So this is how we move. This is how the serpent moves. We go up or down. The serpent stays down all the time, side to side. So you think, oh yeah, it's something new. Here, it's something good. No, because you're not elevating. You're not even descending. You're staying at a plateau. You're not moving anywhere. That's the danger in this world. When Adam was in the garden, he received positive and negative commands, the do's and the do nots. Do, work the land. Do not, eat from the tree. Genesis 2:15, now the Lord took the man and he placed him in the Garden of Eden to work it and to guard it. Work, positive. Guard, negative. Don't, right? Adam broke a negative command, which is on the side of judgment. Positive commands are on the side of mercy, negative command on the side of judgment. Ramchal says in the book, Derech Hashem, the ways of God, man should have chosen good, and his soul would have overpowered his body, and his mind over his matter. Then he would have been complete and rested in perfection for eternity. In God's world, especially when it comes to cognizant beings, come to human beings, right? We have free will. We have to choose good. We have to make it our business to find out what is good. Again, not according to our own understanding, but according to what God said is good. And in 138 Pathways of Wisdom, he says, if man would not have sinned, his body would have been pure and he would have been rectified immediately. So again, back to the cognizant beings, we are the only ones that can actually build up. Everything else stays the same. Angels have no say in how we live our lives. They can argue with God all day. That's what they're there for, right? God actually listens to them, but he does what he wants in the end. And in the end, we've already seen examples of man actually, if you will, contending with angels. Jacob with the Malach HaMavet, with the angel of death. Moses with the entire entourage of the upper worlds. For the Torah, God's like, go ahead, you handle this, you got this. You know what's what. Anyway, if that was the case, the body becomes one with the neshama, with the soul, and would be eternal. And Adam would have enjoyed reality as it will be after the resurrection of the dead. In other words, where we're headed, we're going right back after 6,000 years almost. We're going right back to where Adam was, and then we're ascending from there. Every person in this world has to earn it. They have work to do. This is the first command given to Adam in the Garden of Eden. If you think that anything will be done for you, that defies everything that we saw, even from what God told Adam to do in the Garden of Eden. Lovda o leshamra. You do your work, do the do's, and stay away from the do-nots. That's it. Nobody does anything for you. That is contrary to the governance of this world. As the Ramchal explains Daniel's dream, saying, everything that the Holy One, blessed be he, is going to do in the days of Mashiach is what Adam could have achieved on the day that he was created. But because of the sin, time was extended. Like we said, everything was a blip, was a dot. If you go to the Acharit Keleshit series, the End from the Beginning series, we start off with a candle. Everything was a dot. On the 6th day, Tov Me'od, the angels are like, oh, you created a perfect world, but then once the sin came in, all of a sudden you take that world, you infuse it with time. Now you can actually see all the ups and the downs. You can see the kilkulim, the blemishes, and then the tikkunim, the rectifications along the way. Like, oh, that's ugly, that's evil, that's bad, that's this, that's that. How? I thought this was a perfect world. Wait a minute, you have to look at everything within context. Look at all the goodness. Look at all the dips for the sake of ascending, right? We trip up so we could get to a higher level. Look at all the trials and errors. Look at all the will for people to actually continue in order to ascend. All this has to be taken together. And in the end, once you look at the entire 6,000 years of creation, you'll say just what God said. Vehine tov me'od. It is very good. So, like we said, time was unextended. The rectification must be made regardless, whether it was on that hour of that Friday of the 6 days of creation. But instead, then now it's almost 6,000 years. It's okay, one way or the other. Again, we're going back to exactly where God wants us to go. Reality was created, and we could have ended in a blip. Boom! Adam was born. He refrained from eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, waited with Eve to unite with her on Shabbat and not on Friday. Boom, that's it. There's no 6,000 years. There's nobody else. There's no Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. There's no Moses. There's no David. You see? There's no temple. None of these things are necessary. But as we know, the Torah was written even before creation. Therefore, these things are very necessary. We are just learning from this right now how to better our ways by removing our ways, you see. But because of the sin and the shattering of the vessels, Adam and Eve, they are the vessels, we are now under the governance of time. Everything goes by time. Time. The entire Torah is time-based. That's why most of the Torah is time-based. That's why women don't have to do most of the mitzvot that have to do with time, because women have different responsibilities from men. Ramchal says in Dat Tfunot, from the beginning, God created his world in a way that could have been perfected immediately, from start to finish, through one thing that Adam had to do. Just say no. Thanks, Nancy. But Since it didn't happen, Nancy Reagan, you know, and the Tikkun Olam, the rectification of the world, did not take place on that same day, time needed to extend in the secret of 2,000 years, and we will discuss this concept, of course. Furthermore, his sin caused great darkness in the worlds, and the Sitra Achra spread, and the nations of the world came to be, because they were never supposed to exist. The nations, the 70 nations, were never supposed to exist. So you guys know the firstborn son of creation of Adam and Eve, if they would have waited for Shabbat, was supposed to be a child called Israel. So Jacob became Israel after the tikkun of Avraham, Yitzchak, and then Yaakov merited the title Israel, and then we became the children of Israel. It's all part of the same tikkun, you see? So we got that point of Egypt, when we came out of Egypt, back to the place of the original sin. We're going to be discussing that in the next few classes. But just so you understand this point, everything goes over until we get it right, and we're almost there. I had some new revelations the other day. Wow. Anyway, good stuff. Maybe I'll share, maybe I won't. I'm just saying, we are very, very close people. Okay. Instead, who was the firstborn son, the first legitimate son of Adam and Eve? It was Abel, not Cain. Like we said, Cain's father was a fusion between the Samech Mem, the Satan, and the serpent. He was a reptilian-like. This is spoken of clearly in the Zohar. And Moses, it was Abel. Moses was a reincarnation of Abel, which is why he was equal to Israel, right? God said, you are equal to the 600,000 of Israel, because you were the firstborn son, but in all actuality had to be Israel. So right now, you're born in their stead, and you're equal to them, and you have to take care of them. And who's called to take them out of darkness and show them the light. Okay, so the tikkun that we have been doing for almost 6,000 years is much greater than what needed to be done on that first day, obviously. But now, since the sin caused death, the governance of time had been created for the sake of the rectification. But with this time, we also have good and evil, as well as reward and punishment. After the sin, Adam entered a new age, the age of free will. Or choice. The governance of reward and punishment had already begun, and with the governance of unification, ichud, meaning everything has to lead back to that one singularity, which essentially is in turn is turning all evil back to good, right? Because at first there was no evil. Evil sprouted out afterwards. You kind of have to put that one back over there. Everything comes from God, so everything is good. Free will is not to be used throughout the governance of time. Free will is to be used throughout the governance of time until the end of the 6th millennia and the beginning of the 7th, where it will be lightly softened. Again, we're going to be discussing all this stuff. And this is in the secret of, as it says in Masechet Sanhedrin 97a, Sheit alfei shanei have alma vechad charuv, 6,000 years of the world and 1,000 of destruction. This does not mean that the world will be destroyed, only the governance by which it currently stands, the end of the world as we know it. However, once the clock hits 0, when the 6th millennia ends and the 7th begins, we must still keep our eyes open and beware of sinning from the aspect of, as it says in Genesis 3:7, and the eyes of both of them were open. We're going back to this place before the sin. And so we have a chance, we have a do-over. We're going to be so refined in that state of Adam and Eve before the sin in the Garden of Eden. And it still doesn't mean it's done yet, right? Okay, like we just said. So what does this actually mean in the reality, in the new reality that was created to accommodate their state? According to the Ramchal in Reisha Seifa, regarding Adam and Chava, he says, when they descended from their initial state of being, they were given complete control over their eyes. When they descended from their initial state of being, before that, God was helping them, meaning They would have to discern when something was good or bad. When they saw something, everything was good. There was no evil, right? But once their eyes opened, God said, you want to do this on your own? Please discern. So, separating the bad from the good, because in almost every facet of creation, there is just that. That's what this is. This entire world is good from bad. Another example, eating food. Eating food. If we need to eat food, it's not even a question. We have to do it, right? In order to survive, this is the state of being in this fallen world. So we have a lot of rules when it comes to eating food. We have to eat kosher food, and then we have to say the proper blessings before we eat it and after we eat it. Not only that, there are things that we have to do while we eat, and a state of mind that we have to have while we're eating. Otherwise, everything goes to bad. This is separating the good from the bad. Our sages back in the day, 2,000 years ago, they would say vidui, confession, before they sat down for a meal. Because if, God forbid, they choked during that meal, if their thoughts were not pure, God forbid they choked during that meal, because God really, he handles the righteous, it says, as a hair width. Because they're so high up, everything that they do, it matters. So if a sage, for instance, would have impure thoughts or foreign thoughts or non-Torah related thoughts during a meal, God forbid he could choke, and there he would die without confession. So they would say confession before. So you see, even with something necessary, we turn it into good. We take the good out of it and we remove the evil. If you eat without a blessing, you are actually not sustaining your body. I mean, you are sustaining your physical body, but not your soul. Man does not rely on bread alone, right? You have the physical bread for your physical body, but you need to then take that, and what am I doing with this bread? That gives me sustenance. It gives me strength to do the Lord's work. That's that kind of mind frame and thought throughout our entire lives in everything that we do. So, okay, so you got that. You got those ideas, and anything else you could think of over there. And if you have any questions, please, that's why I'm here. Ask away. Okay. Relations with one's spouse is good, but it has to be done in a kosher way at a right time. And then there are laws of purity. Taking something that could potentially be good in the level of the Garden of Eden, or taking it down to the pits of hell. Choice is ours. Before the sin, there was no such thing as bad or evil. It just did not exist. It existed technically, right? But it didn't exist concerning man. It's a level of consciousness. They only saw the good. They only saw it. But now they see everything. Okay, you want to see it? I will show you. Oh no, what did we do? You wanted this. Now you have to handle this. It's also part of taking responsibility. You have to do this. This will not be done for you. Then they would always have to be cautiously aware of their surroundings as well as work matters. And the secret of this matter is that they should always be in a worrisome state of mind, as they would need strength and will to guard and keep themselves. You see? And for this matter, another was born, as said in Genesis 3:19, with the sweat of your face you shall eat bread. This does not mean in the simple sense where work hard and literally sweat producing bread. It's not only what that means. This means if you want to live and continue to breathe, you will have to worry about every aspect of life itself. That's what that means. And tell me that that's not true, right? You need a roof over your head, food to feed yourself and your family, keeping a job, paying the bills, maintaining sanity as the world keeps getting darker and making our lives becoming increasingly harder until the end of time. So our burden keeps on getting bigger and bigger and bigger and greater and greater. And it's not like the time is helping us. To the contrary. We still have to, what was it in Egypt? We still have to produce the bricks, though the materials were taken away from us. Look around right now, right? Once upon a time, you could be in the 50s, 60s, maybe even 70s. You could be a sanitation worker, a garbage man, and you can own a house and own a car and have a pension. You could be a bus driver. You could be a public servant and still live a good life and put your kids through college. That is not the case today. Your bachelor degrees are worth nothing. So are your masters. Look what's happening. Just like it was in Egypt, so it will be before the end times. We're right there. We're just waiting for that united cry to send us the Redeemer. Okay, but I digress. Anyway, Adam and Chava, Eve, essentially lost their immortality because they were closer to angelic beings. They were closer to Elohim, right? Elohim is also Elohim Acharim, other Elohim al Panai, not Ha Elohim, not God, but other Elohim, powerful beings. And these powerful beings, they were moving in a certain pathway or frequency, if you will. They were on that frequency. There was no conflict within creation until the choice was made to then go a different direction than that of truth. This is why we always say you have to stay on your path. You have to stay on your lane. It all leads to the same place, but you have to do what you want to do. You can't go here because that's not assigned to you. You have to go where you're going. Anything else that you do is like, no, I'm going here. It's still in the same direction. No, if you do not stay in your lane, you're going off the derech. The whole thing comes apart and someone has to pick up your slack and you will answer for what you did. Again, lean not on your own understanding. We have a very clear rule book. So there was no conflict, like we said, within creation until the choice was made. That's when you go on a different path. And this is a different direction of truth. And the secret of this is in Ezekiel 1:12. Asher yeh shama haruach lalechet yelechu. What is this from? Now, each one, we're talking about the chayot, right? The angelic beings who are holding up the throne of God. Now, each one will go towards the direction of his face. Wherever he would go, they would go. Wherever there would be the will to go, they would go. They did not turn as they walked. Very, very poor translation. But bottom line is, if they moved like this, if they turned, they all turned. One did not go in the other's pathway. They all moved together in one path. So again, it's poorly translated. The Hebrew says, Asher yeh shama haruach lalechet yelechu. Did you hear anything about the ruach or the spirit? You heard the will. That's how they translated it. Wherever there would be will, spirit, ruach to go, they would go. Like a blind person completely relying on the one who leads them to guide them without fear. That's how they go, wherever the spirit leads them. As written in Genesis 2:15. Vayikach Hashem Elohim et ha'adam. Now the Lord God took the man. Vayanichehu began Eden le'ovda u'leshomra. And he placed him in the Garden of Eden to work it and to guard it. Vayanichehu, yes, it does mean lehaniach, to place, but it comes from the word menucha, rest, right? The father of Shimshon is Manoach, or Noach, to give the earth rest. One of the names of Mashiach is Menachem, the comforter. It's all from the same root. Vayanichehu, he allowed him to rest in the garden. Like what? What is our day of rest? Shabbat. It is the eternal rest, known as but a glimpse of the world to come. The Shabbat in our days, me'ein olam haba, it is a glimpse of the world to come. Everything is off. We don't need anything. We bask in prayer and Torah and family and love and good food and togetherness and everything l'shem shamayim. It is something very, very exclusive, as it says, Beini uben bnei Israel oti leolam, in Exodus, between me and the children of Israel. It is an eternal covenant. And so Adam did exactly what he was supposed to do, without a doubt, without fear or question. He was being led, and he was following, right? Everything that he was doing, he was naming the animals, he had conversations with the angels, he was keeping, tilling the spiritual ground, if you will, of the Garden of Eden, of the supernal Garden of Eden, and he was not eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. But Adam choosing then afterwards, again, we know the story, the tree of knowledge was from the aspect of a downfall, the stubborn and winding serpent road, where evil is mixed in with everything that we do today. Everything. I'll give you even another example. If I say a blessing, Here, I got my water right here. I already said a blessing for the water. But if I say a blessing for even if I say a blessing for this water, but I say without focus and concentration, I just took something holy and turned it into something mundane. That is not making that separation between good and evil, because I have to focus. Please, God, this water that you're giving me, I'm drinking it right now to sustain me in order that I can have a lubricated throat so I can speak easier, spreading your Torah. You see? Everything, every aspect, and we have to be extra careful, especially when it comes to the mitzvot, because now this is not mundane by any means. Okay, so again, however, before the sin, the way was straight and paved. It was right there, directly to the tree of life without any delays. Like we read in Ecclesiastes 7:29, God made man straight. Very simple. He made the process as simple as possible. But since the choice, the way was no longer straight and simple. Adam's state before the sin was directly beneath the governance of the Ancient of Days. The closest possible space to the Creator, almost no separation. As he received his breath in his nostrils, right, from the metaphorical nose of God himself. His place was in the corridor, says the Ramchal. What is the corridor? The corridor was the Garden of Eden. Today, Kol haolam kulo gesher tzar meod, as Rabbi Nachman says. The entire world, all of creation, is the corridor. Back then, it was the Garden of Eden. Now we're in a corridor just to get to the Garden of Eden, and the Garden of Eden is a corridor to get to eternity, right? Eternia. And if he had not sinned and succeeded in the trial and waited until Shabbat had come in, like we said, even the eating of the tree, because again, it's not the tree itself, it was the sin, not the tree, it was the transgression of the sin. God could said, don't jump on one foot while juggling. Oh no, no, it's not about the thing, it's about the transgression. But what even led him to there? We discussed that in the 6 days of creation, in Pirkei Rabbi Eliezer. You're welcome to go look at that. So again, if he would have waited until Shabbat had come in, he would have already entered the world of recompense, olam hagmul. In other words, all the goodness that you did, here is your eternal reward. The world of primordial man, elevating and ascending all the worlds with him. Man is a microcosm of world. Everything that we do, it actually has effect on this world and all the upper worlds as well. But because of the sin, Adam fell under the governance of this world. The goal of reality has not changed. It never has and it never will. Malachi 3:6 says, "For I, the Lord, have not changed." God does not change, right? Remember, God created the world and this timeline according to the choices of human beings. Only God could do this. Everything happens exactly according to God's will. There are no surprises here. And the plan always was and is the revelation of the holy singularity, the oneness. This will happen at the end of days through returning all the evil into good, which is all part of the same singularity, as said in Isaiah 45:7. Who forms light and creates darkness? Who makes peace and creates evil? I am the Lord who makes all these. Yes, all the evil, where do you think that comes from? Sure, people are doing it and this and that or the other, but we know this, we read this, we learn this, but we rarely act upon this. If God does not change, and he does not, that means the distance between us is our choice. We are doing this. Everything that happened in this world, we have to take responsibility for. Whether something good in your life happens or bad in your life happens, it's not actually bad. We think it's about changing reality, but it's not. Listen right now. Here's your life lessons. It's not about changing reality because reality is perfect the way it is. I'm not talking about this reality. This reality is still within God's reality, within that blip of goodness, tov me'od, okay? This is our perception. We see this because our eyes are open. We can't unsee this. But rather, it is that we who must change to sync ourselves with the reality of the Creator, meaning we are all one. We tend to look at evil as a bad thing, naturally, right? But how can evil be bad if it comes from God? And we know that everything comes from God is good. So then why are we calling evil bad? You see, evil is nothing more than a construct that serves a purpose. And what is the purpose? The purpose is to elevate man to become one with God. That's it. We've all seen those videos of people getting, let's say, too close in a safari, not closing their windows, going out to, hey, it's a good idea to pet the lion. Here, I'm going to feed the grizzly bear. When that person gets mauled and eaten, like right before that, what's the first thing that you say? What an evil lion. What an evil bear. No, we don't say that. What do we say? We say, what an idiot. What the hell was he thinking? Why would you do this? Clearly, we know that that is a bad idea. It's a bad choice. So is the bear or lion evil for doing its thing? No. Such is the way of the world. Let's make peace with Hamas. You know what I'm saying? We're like, what an idiot. Why would you do that? They don't want it. They say they don't. What's going? You see, some things are so obvious, and such is the way of the world. Why are you're surprised that they do what they do? You're surprised that Iran throws missiles. None of these things should surprise you. They say what they want to do. That's who they are. They are the lion. They are the bear. They are acting according to how they are. They can't even help it. They're not thinking about helping it. That is who they are. We are the ones that have to change, not changing them. Going into Muslim countries for freedom, they're not interested in what you consider freedom or in the Western ways of freedom. Look what they're doing in your countries. They're destroying your countries. They're bringing their culture to you, and you're accepting it in the name of freedom and equality. How's that working out for you? People still didn't get it. That's why the world absolutely has to be destroyed, because they don't get it. Here we go. So basically, we can all say the same thing. What a bunch of idiots. What were they thinking? Evil comes from God, and it is a construct to balance out good in this world, to give us the opportunity to choose. Without evil, there is no free will. And without free will, what is the point of man? You can't go anywhere. Evil is resistance. And so today, in this world and its rules of governance, everything that we do matters because we have free will. Though the rectification of reality could have been done by Adam in one shot, the magnitude of this fusion of holiness, this oneness, this unity, the singularity, is something that could have been handled by primordial man, the purest and most powerful being ever created with limitless potential. That's why the fall affected all of reality, infusing time. But if that kind of boom, for instance, if that kind of tikkun, what could have happened then, would have happened at any point, any singular point throughout time, anytime after the sin, even after man had already done tshuva and corrected his ways, refining himself to be the pinnacle of creation once again, which he did, by the way, he and the world would not be able to handle such a light in one shot, as everything would be destroyed. Adam did a tikkun. He was sitting in the Gihon spring for 130 years. Read it in Genesis chapter 5. And he begot, after 130 years, he begot Seth in his likeness and image. Man was created in God's likeness and image. So who is Seth? In the image of, in the image of, in the likeness of, in the likeness of. You see. This is also likened to Moses entering into the land of Israel, as God told him, if you do enter, you're going on to the level of bringing the third temple that's going to ascend upon Mount Moriah. But You're also going to burn the world and the children of Israel along with it because no one is close to your level. Is that what you want? See, we're not ready for that light. There is only one Moses, right? And Moses says, no, I'm good. I'll die here. Just like God showed Adam until the end of time, he did the same for Moses as they wept regarding the long and stubborn, winding road. But they also saw it as a necessity in this reality. This is the only way towards the rectification, towards converting the darkness into the light. How are you going to convert the darkness into light? You have to go after that darkness. You see, it is by the power of the Spirit of Mashiach that this supernal unity will be revealed in the end. But throughout time, who do you think does the work? Every single one of us has a responsibility to do it. Most of the correction has already been done. He is the one who is the culmination of it all. That's what Mashiach does. It's just the final tikkun to kind of wrap everything up together. According to the Ramchal, Mashiach is under the governance of that primordial Adam. In other words, the highest being ever created before the sin. Adam was living in that governance, okay, of where Mashiach is and will be from before creation up until the final rectification. Directly under and through the nostrils of the Ancient of Days. As said in Lamentations 4:20, the breath of our nostrils is Mashiach Hashem, the Lord's anointed. While the point of origin is in Genesis 2:7, he breathed into his nostrils the soul of life, Nishmat Chaim, Neshama. It doesn't say nefesh. Vayehi ha'adam lenefesh chaya. And man became a living nefesh, not soul. It doesn't say soul. It says neshama and then nefesh. English, lose it. Essentially, completing the rectification of Adam, who we are all the product of. And where Adam fell short, Mashiach will succeed. That means that over the course of these 6,000 years, starting with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and the children of Israel until this very day, and until the day Mashiach completes the rectification. It's not that nothing had to be done. Remember, it's the heels of Mashiach. That's what we're looking at today. The very last and lowest point of the body which remains until the time of the end. The heels being the most important thing. You'd think, oh, it's the head, it's the heart. But where your heels are on, that's where you stand, you see? And so you could be perfectly rectified, but if you're in the wrong place, if you are not holding where you need to hold, none of it means anything. That's why it's on the heels of Mashiach. Literally the lowest part of the body, but the one that makes sure that you are standing in the right place. And regarding us, man, the Ramchal says that it is in our hands to do so. One of these two things, either do it or do not. Either we get rid of evil or we do not. If we do not, the evil continues to spread as it has been, giving it room to govern. When it governs, it is so powerful that you cannot take it head on, but rather you have to be as crafty as it is. This craftiness is not really crafty at all. This is derech Hashem, the ways of God. You cannot beat it at its own game. You should refuse to play its game. Its game is the world today and the rules thereof. Any other way other than God's way is assisting the Sitra Achra. It's very simple. It's God's way or it's the Samech Mem's way. It's the opposite of that. God or not God. These are only two choices in life. What is this likened to? When a Jew rejects the Torah, but insists that, no, hey, I'm a good and moral person. And, they recycle and all that good stuff. When it comes to the tachlis, to the root of the matter, like we've been saying for years, we have but two choices, either God or not God. Anything other than God by default is against God. There is no gray area. The grayness is still part of the Sitra Achra. That is the noise and the distortion that is this fallen world. This stubborn and winding road presents what it presents us with. Therefore, you should know where a person holds. When they say given the current state, we have to navigate the road that we are on. This is what everyone will tell you. Well, no one's saying, yes, of course, you still have to work and you still have to pay bills. But there are certain things that you should not take as matter of fact. No, the way it is right now is not how it is supposed to be. So again, when someone says, this is the road that we are on and we have to navigate the way we are on, this is your response to them. I'm going to quote Doc Brown when he said, where we're going, we don't need roads. If you put on the God glasses, look through Torah, you will see a straight line that leads directly to the tree of life, directly to Him. And that is, and always was, Yashar El Israel. God is straight. So thank you for joining me. Have a wonderful rest of the week and have a Shabbat Shalom. See you next time. Bye.